Independence School District to order. Let the record show a quorum of board members is present and that this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. So welcome to those of you that are here. We don't have any speakers this evening, so we will go straight to our focus group update from Mr. David Thompson and Dr. Mike Moses, our consultants for the search committee. And I know several of you were participating today. If you're watching online, some of you are here in person. So we're anxious to hear what the community had to say, for these focus groups at least.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. It's good to see you again. I hope you had a very good day, and hope your time, if you were in San Antonio at the convention, I hope it was a very productive meeting, and it's good to be with you tonight. At the very outset, we would like to thank you for the people you nominated during the course of the day. We had outstanding interactions with a large group of your constituents. We'll give you a sense of some of the comments here in a moment, but just excellent conversations and good insights. If you hear from any of the folks, they found it useful and productive from their side. I particularly want to note the students who participated had some of the very best comments. Good. I think the adults are encouraged and appreciative of what your students had to share during the course of the day. So good folks. And we also want to thank your staff. The organization today was outstanding. Kim Holt, Becky Nevins just gave us wonderful support during the course of the day, and we very much appreciate their work. And we tried not to mess things up too much, and they kept us on track, and it made for a very good day. As I said, I think the attendance was outstanding, and we compared this with multiple districts. I think we only had a handful of people across all of the groups not able to be present. So whatever efforts you made to remind and encourage people to attend were successful, and I will say that at the outset. We conducted the meetings as a guided conversation. Everybody got to comment on a wide variety of questions, and they also got to hear each other's comments. And each group was a very diverse group. Each group had a mix of parents, teachers, administrators, business leaders, others in the community. So it was rich conversation, and people got to hear each other's perspectives. The first question we asked, kind of an icebreaker, we told the group that Mike and I are not simply kind of sitting back and waiting for people to hold their hand up and apply. We are actively recruiting on your behalf. And so the first question was, what are the strengths of both the district and the community that you are proud of, that you would want anyone who's considering this position to know about? What's our elevator speech? You ought to look at the superintendency at Eagle Mountain Saginaw because blank. What are our strengths? And we got some very good observations. You're going to see every comment, by the way. Between Mike and Becky and me, we got every comment without attribution. You will get all of those. We'll clean it up, organize it, compile all of our different notes, and you'll get those within the next few days. But what we're going to call your attention to tonight is just some highlights, if you will, a couple of themes that we tended to hear over and over and over during the course of the day. And then you'll be able to see and spend as much time with all of the comments as you wish to do so. So I'm going to mention a couple of the themes under strengths, and then I'll invite Mike up to see if there's anything that I missed that he wants to add. One of the first strengths that people mentioned, and again, multiple times, where we still have the feel of a smaller community, even as we've grown and gotten larger. And people kind of extended that to say what that means is people still know each other. There are still those interpersonal connections that give it more of a smaller community feel, even as you've dealt with growth. We heard comments over and over during the course of the day about your outstanding teachers and administrators. And we also heard multiple comments in multiple groups complimenting the board, and specifically complimenting the board and the superintendency, the team of 8, and how well y'all have worked together to plan and implement programs for the district. The reason I want to call attention to that is we don't always hear that. But we heard it multiple times today across multiple groups. So that's always significant to Dr. Moses and I when we hear that comment. Again, we heard excellent comments about your teachers and administrators. Heard great comments about the cooperation within the district between the schools and churches and other community organizations. That was mentioned multiple times as a strength. And then a lot of people really were proud of your facilities. And as Mike and I have driven around and looked at your district, we recognize you have some outstanding facilities here, and something we know you're very proud of and you've worked hard to do. Mike, I'm going to stop. Those are a couple of the strengths that I made note of. I'll see if you want to add a couple. Oh, and one more that Dr. Moses and I were talking to Dr. Chadwell, and we asked him if his ears were burning during the course of the day. We heard a lot of positive comments about your current superintendent and a lot of recognition for the outstanding work, Jim, that you've done in this community. And people know that you've set a very high bar that your successor is going to have to work hard to meet and keep going. So a lot of appreciation and a lot of personal recognition of how much you've meant to this community.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the board. It's good to be with you again. And I probably have to underscore a lot of what David has already said. First of all, thanks to the staff today and Kim, Becky, y'all did a great job, and we really appreciate it very much. And everything I think was it was set up so well, and it allowed for us to have great conversations. I think the strengths that David has already alluded to are right on. I think there was a sense of pride from people about the district, and a couple of people said, you know, I'm just proud that my kids have gone to school here, that we've grown up here, and also I think there's a sense of that this is a district that treats its employees well, that it's a family kind of an atmosphere, and with accountability. Somebody said it's family with accountability. So those were strengths. As far as we flip it over and we say, you know, school districts, we don't say school districts have problems, but we say school districts have challenges. Tell us about the challenges that you think that the board and the new superintendent are going to face in the next 2 to 3 years. I doubt this is going to surprise you a whole lot, but here are some things they had to say. And I would say these were sophisticated people. I would say you or the staff or Rob or somebody's done a pretty good job of informing them about things, because they right off the bat said funding, said money. Funding from the state is a challenge. It's a problem. Since there has been none, I guess you consider that a real problem. Some even knew what the state surplus was and knew what the state surplus was and knew that you got none of it. So there was good understanding of that. Another one that came up repeatedly, and I'm not mentioning just one-offs. These are things: teacher retention, getting good teachers, keeping great teachers. Interestingly enough, they also drew the relationship between that and money. You know, we had a good discussion about that. A little frustration maybe was at first maybe expressed with regard to why is there no money and why are we not getting raised? And we had a good discussion about it. It's easy to criticize the people who you're closest to, but let's make sure we do our homework and understand. And you even had a couple of people explaining to a couple of other people that the problem wasn't at this table. The problem might be at a table about 180 miles south of here. So it was again a group that seemed to understand some of these issues: growth, and growth again, and growth again, and all that entails in new schools, facilities, attendance boundaries, getting teachers. And again, none of this was said in any hostility or hostile way. It was just, this is what comes with the territory. And there's an understanding of that. One that we're hearing more and more in a lot of these groups is student conduct, student discipline, student behavior, teachers leaving, turning my keys because kids can't behave, won't behave, parent accountability, and so forth, frustrations in that area. And that was expressed. Another challenge fell right into this were attacks on public education, attacks on educators, attacks on people who try to help education. Heard this one probably several times about the school district. A challenge for a new superintendent and is the idea of an east side, west side. And east side, west side got into a discussion of facilities, got into discussion of facility equity, appreciative of bond issues, appreciative of efforts, but still some people sensing some challenges there. And again, we don't call them problems, we call them challenges, but we ask people, be honest, go ahead and talk to us and tell us what you're seeing and what you're thinking. Again, I don't think it's a surprise, but I think it was handled in the right kind of way. Others saw school vouchers as a challenge because it might affect funding. It might take money away from schools, assuming that there would be money to be had. But it demonstrated again, I think people knew what some of the issues were, and they knew what some of the issues are that you face and that the superintendent faces. And I would say probably the area, and we had a good discussion with your senior staff today, but an area that came up with the focus groups, it was the concern about the growth of special education, 504 students, and that population and serving that population and the challenges that go with serving that population. And it's special, I'll say special challenges that you face with that. Again, I don't think anyone was trying to be harsh, but I think they were trying to say that appears to be something that a new superintendent is going to have to continue to work on. Jim got, as David said, lots of shout outs today. And, but those were some of the things that came up as issues. Again, I suspect those are not breaking news for you, but they're out there, and it's good. It's good to know, and there weren't any secrets, and it's good for new leadership to know here's what's in front of you, and here's what you may be facing. David, you want to talk about certain characteristics that they expressed an interest in?
Yeah, and I'll add on the challenges, just a couple, Mike, that were mentioned multiple times. A couple of people noted, and as Mike said, there was quite a bit of recognition and conversation around the east side, west side issues. And I thought it was productive, and it was a healthy conversation, but there was a recognition a couple of people said, you know, what we've got to look for in the future is we may very well wind up with some north-south issues as well. You know, as we begin to have more growth north, you're going to have some of the same issues, and a conversation about infrastructure as you build, because y'all don't control everything. You have to work with multiple cities, you have to work with the county, you have unincorporated areas, and roads, sidewalks, crossing, crosswalks, water, that infrastructure that has to be in place to support growth of schools was recognized as a challenge that a new superintendent is going to have to come prepared to work with multiple other local organizations to address. So that's kind of we call it an inventory. We got a good list of some strengths. We've got a good list of some challenges in the next few years. We always remind the groups that sometimes our challenges can feel pretty heavy. That burden can feel pretty overwhelming at times, but we are going to rely on our strengths to address our challenges. So even as we think about our challenges, let's not forget the strengths that we started with. And so that's just our perspective on it, and hope that's useful. We then shifted the conversation to say, let's talk about the type of person that you want the board to focus on as they go through the process of reviewing applications, reviewing resumes, looking at different candidates, ultimately conducting interviews and making a decision. And we divided this into two questions. The first question focused on what Mike and I call resume characteristics, the kinds of experiences, professional bases touched that are going to show up when you review somebody's written applications, written materials, resumes, things of that nature. A separate question is going to focus on those non-resume, the soft skills, the personal attributes that are going to be equally or maybe even more important when the board comes to making a decision. But first of all, we said, you know, let's talk about some of the things on the resume or on the written materials that you really want to highlight for the board. And we had a good conversation about this. I think without exception, everybody wants an educator. Sometimes we hear people when we do these processes say, well, you know, I'm open to a non-traditional candidate, to somebody coming from a business or a non-educational environment. We didn't hear that today. We heard pretty consistent comments. This district is focused on education. We want somebody who is an experienced, successful educator. Several people said we want a teacher, and frankly, as recent teaching experience as possible, somebody who has a good sense of what is going on the campus or in the classroom would be helpful. Campus leadership, campus principal experience was highly valued, as well as central office experience. Now, Mike, I would say we had a reasonable split as to whether existing sitting superintendent experience is a prerequisite or whether your community thought you should be open to someone who is maybe a deputy superintendent but is not a current sitting superintendent. And we had people make good comments on both sides of that conversation. The conversation did, the people who did talk about a deputy or somebody who's not a sitting superintendent said, if we're going to look at non-superintendents, we have to look at somebody who's job ready, you know, not somebody who's still learning and growing the skills, but someone where it's absolutely apparent that they have the skills and they're simply waiting for that opportunity. Kind of like the great coordinator who's ready to be the head coach at a major program. They're not still learning on the job, they're simply waiting for the opportunity, if that makes sense. And so that was a caveat we pass up. experience with districts similar to yours in two particular areas. One, in terms of growth, numbers that several people said, we want to focus on people who know what growth looks like and who have dealt with the challenges that come with growth. And then a second comment related to that similarity was we want people who have some experience with demographics similar to ours. They know how to deal with diverse populations and the needs of kids from different backgrounds. So that was something that people mentioned. We did hear a lot of support for someone who has Texas experience. We always say, are you open to an out-of-state individual, or do you want somebody from Texas? And I think there was a recognition that Texas has a pretty unique finance system, and we have a pretty unique accountability system. And somebody who has some understanding of our Texas systems is going to be in a preferred position. And Mike and I did say that we keep up with people who have had long careers in Texas, may currently be out of state, who have seen the error of their ways and are ready to return to Texas. And we've actually worked with boards before who have hired candidates at that profile. But that Texas experience was something that was valued. Another one where we got some comments on both sides was whether a doctorate should be a highly preferred or prerequisite requirement. And Mike, I would say we had some division. We had a number of people in some of the groups say, I don't care as much about the doctorate as I care about the experience. I'm more focused on the experiences than I am on the degree. But we also had a large number of individuals say, look, this organization is about education, and a lot of the people who work here, live here, have advanced degrees, and a doctorate should at the very least be a highly preferred criteria. Now, Mike pointed out that realistically, probably most of the candidates that you are going to be getting for a district of your size are probably going to have their doctorates. You may see a few that don't, but those are some of the themes that we heard over and over and over about those professional kind of resume or material characteristics. Mike, anything you want to add? And do you want to touch on the personal soft skills? Yep.
I think David hit the high points. Although a couple of your participants, focus group nominees said we've got a lot of people in this community, and a lot of our principals, and I have people that have doctorates, and we think that it would speak well to have someone that had one as superintendent. But again, I thought it was well stated without anybody saying it, demanding anything. It was more like, here are maybe some preferences. The last thing we did, we said, okay, talk to us about the personal characteristics. Talk to us about the soft skills. What are the characteristics you would say you really hope that this next person has? And it almost without fail, the first one that comes up, and it came up today, is communicator. Because as you grow, communication becomes more and more important because it's more spread out. And the communication system that you have in place becomes really important. And then Jim started getting into the conversation. Well, Jim does this and Jim's like this. And so approachability came up. Approachable, reachable, inclusive, loves kids, responsive, came up, highly collaborative. Have to be able to see, I can read my own writing. This was said, I thought, someone struggled to say it, but that we just need somebody that's not afraid to hire people that are smarter than them. And it's not to say that we would like the board to obviously hire someone who's smart, but not someone who knows how to put together a team. Not someone who knows how to build a team, and someone who's not afraid to hire really bright people. I laughingly, David's heard me say, my dad used to say, Mike, you need to always hire people smarter than you, and in your case, it probably won't be very hard. And that was his way, I think, of keeping some humility. And humility was mentioned, that we'd like someone who is confident but humble. Pro teacher, open-minded, transparent, and we kept hearing that word approachable several times. Someone who can be honest with themselves, personable, and then the word integrity showed up several times as well. I think those are the ones that were probably that we got the most often, but there were a lot of other expressions of that were aspirational in terms of, you know, compassionate, passion, love for the job, results driven, things that might be more one-off, but overall we told the group this is an aspirational list. It sets the bar, though. You as a community have a right to have high expectations, and the board can certainly look at these and think about, you know, these expectations. But that, I think, gives you a flavor of kind of the personal characteristics they were after. David, where you want to go from there?
Let me just mention a couple that we heard, and in addition to those. Several people made the observation, and I'll couch it this way: schools don't exist in a vacuum. School districts don't exist in a vacuum. You're part of communities, part of a county, part of an area. Several people said we want a superintendent who is politically aware, is able to work with the legislature, who is able to advocate for the needs of our districts, who understands that political environment in which public education and our district in particular have to function and succeed. But we don't want a politician. We don't want somebody who makes political decisions. We want somebody where the focus is on education, it's on the best interest of teachers and students. But we have to be aware of that larger world in which the district exists, and particularly the ability to work well with our legislators and to represent the needs of the district. Mike, I think we heard that comment several times in multiple groups. And then just one comment, we only heard it once, but it was from one of your students, and I think everybody, all of the adults in the room kind of went, that's a pretty good comment. One of your students said, I want somebody whose focus is on substance and the actual success of programs, not the optics around programs. And that's a pretty good observation. So I thought I would share that with you. Since that came from one of your students. But
she was very good. She was very good.
Madam President, again, that's just a high level, just a quick response. We did have a great conversation with all of the superintendent direct reports, and you know, we asked them, you know, your new superintendent, whoever he or she may be, is going to ask you some questions. That's how they learn. That's how they get familiar. And we generally ask two questions. We say, you know, what is something that's working really well in your area, responsibility that you're proud of, that you want your new superintendent to know is working well and not come in and inadvertently mess up? You know, kind of the medical principle of first do no harm. What's working well that we want to sustain and don't want to lose in a transition? We've got some good comments. You'll see those. And then the reverse side of that is When you're awake at 3 in the morning, what are you thinking about? What keeps you up at night? In your area, what are the things that you see on the horizon where you need some help and you need some resources? Like your new superintendent to be aware of these needs. We had a good conversation there. Again, y'all will see those. Since they came from individuals, what we've tried to do is keep the comments again without attribution. I think some of those, it would be clear who, which comments came from who. So we'll hold off and just give you those as a written part of a written report in a few days. Madam President, that's again, members, that's a high level overview. We'll respond to any questions. If there's anything we said that triggered a thought or a question from you, and then we have one other thing in public we'd like to take a little bit of time with the board, but we'll stop there and see if you have any reaction to any of the information we've shared with you so far.
Very informative, so thank you. So questions?
Was there any thing communicated about being curriculum related? I didn't hear anything that said we want him or her to be strong in curriculum.
I think we heard one or two comments that we need somebody who understands curriculum. But I wouldn't describe that as a theme, but I think it was mentioned at least once, maybe twice.
Yeah, it came up, and then one of the comments did trigger a little discussion, that we want someone that obviously understands teaching and learning, but then we got back to, but we got to have somebody that understands growth and understands our resource needs and finances and budget as well. So it was kind of, yeah, and then that's where David and I interjected. That's when the board has to go through the interview process and weigh and balance people, and we got to do a little coaching, if you'll let us call it that. We took a couple of moments today to try to help everybody kind of realize what the board has to do, what the board has to take into account. Stephen answered the question. Yeah, it came up, and I think people want someone that certainly understands the teaching and learning process, the curriculum process, but they also recognize that, there are other skills there, and growth always came up, and we got to have somebody that can, deal with the funding issues as well. So,
Well, I think, I was happy to hear about the small community feel, because that's been a conscious effort of boards for 40, 50 years to try to keep that feeling as we grow. We've done.
And it gets harder as you grow.
It does.
Yeah.
We've intentionally tried to link the elementary, middle schools, and high schools so they're with the same kids.
Kind of keep your feeder patterns. Yep.
Yes, sir.
Yep. There was a lot of recognition and appreciation around that.
Anybody else questions?
Madam President, we have one other exercise. If we can take a little bit of time, we've shared some of the thoughts that we heard from your constituents today, and again, you'll see all of them. But we'd like to take a few moments, and I mean, we still have about a week and a half to recruit and to receive applications. And we'll see if there are any priorities that any members of the board, if you want to take a few minutes and give each of the board members an opportunity to share any priorities that you want us to be aware of in this last week or so as we work to complete the recruitment process. We'd love to hear any thoughts that y'all may have. Hopefully they're going to be similar to what you've heard from your community, but we certainly want to give you all an opportunity to give us any direction or thoughts that you may want to share with us.
Okay.
Okay.
So say, Ron, you want to start?
Yeah, I will. So I guess it's going to be a little bit of singing Dr. Chadwell's praises again, but one of the things that I appreciate about him is his understanding of what's happening at the state level. You mentioned, or your focus groups mentioned, challenges. There's so much of what we do. Our hearts may be, we want this, but it's, we run into roadblocks because of what's going on
Down the road.
Right, or at the state level, and we're like, this would be right, but we can't because of what, funding, for example.
Yeah.
And the thing I appreciate about our Dr. Chadwell is, he brings to our district an understanding, help us understand, me as a relatively new board member, understand what I need to know that's happening up there, but also that he is respected at that level, that he he can go up there and have a meeting and make our voice heard
Your voice.
because he's respected that way. So, I don't
And
know.
folks from our district who represent he and our district can go down there and be respected because they are from our district and know what they're talking about and are willing to go down there and advocate as
Yeah.
well. I would add that.
Yeah. So I think that's important just because, it'd be nice if we could just make decisions for our kids. I think we'd have but sometimes we can't.
Right, there are constraints that are not
Right.
within your control.
Yes, sir.
So, yep.
Down the line, I guess. So,
That'd be great.
I think we would like someone, or I personally, someone that's very knowledgeable. I think that you touched on a lot of that stuff, but just, for example, it's hard to know about the politics of Austin. It's hard to know about school finance. We have Rob Welch, but, Jim knows finance. He knows politics. He knows curriculum. We have those people in our HR. He knows a lot of that stuff. I don't want to give him too much of the big head, but, he's very intelligent. And so for someone to know as much as he knows about all of that stuff, I would like to see the person that sits in that chair next. It's going to be hard to know all that, but someone that does have a feel for all of that stuff, not that those people can't tell him what it's all about to make him understand, but probably he could tell them more than they even know.
Yeah.
So that's the type of person I'd be looking to sit in
That
the
you're
chair.
looking for. And we think that's very appropriate and very needed, and Dr. Chadwell certainly highly regarded, not only in your community and in this area, but at the state level. And Jim, we appreciate you. But Madam President, I want to interject. I want to take a moment here. I think it's appropriate for this comment. Something we told every group is remember what Jim Chadwell knows today isn't where he was when he started 14 years ago, or 14, nearly 15. People grow. You've learned, you've grown. Whoever the new superintendent is, isn't going to start where Jim Chadwell is now. They're going to have some time, some support, and probably some grace to grow in the job, just as all of us have had an opportunity to grow in various positions that we know. So, Jim, you've set a high bar for comparison, and whoever your successor is going to have to work hard and fast to get there.
Thank you. Steve?
Well, we appreciate that. We trained him up good. Now we're gonna have to start all over again. But
Yeah, now it's time to do it again.
it's time to
So,
do it again. But, the person that what Rob and Ken, sorry,
Okay.
saw that. Ron, never mind. It's
Our mom
twin
does
brothers. What said is true, but I also want someone that's going to be focused on our district. We never have really encouraged Jim to go down and be involved in a lot of state committees or do things outside of focusing on Eagle Mountain Saginaw. So not that they couldn't have maybe that in their resume, but I'd be looking for somebody that really wasn't interested in promoting, the Texas area as much as promoting Eagle Mountain Saginaw, and having somebody there that has that focus of Eagle Mountain Saginaw and is a good communicator. I mean, everybody said that.
And that's a great point. And frankly, that's going to be something for the board and your new superintendent to kind of establish that boundary as to what's an appropriate commitment of time and energy here as opposed to here. probably the likelihood is that your new superintendent initially for some period of time, maybe a few years, is really going to focus on mastering the job, learning the district, and being successful here. And you use that success if you are called upon maybe to occasionally. But I wouldn't expect your new superintendent to start in January and in February be in Austin for the whole month. You know, but I think that's a boundary that the board will certainly. I think that's your prerogative to establish kind of where that boundary is with your new superintendent.
And they
And it's a
also,
good observation.
they also would need to have at least some experience with growth.
Yeah.
We're still building schools.
100%.
And that, they don't, I mean, it's not a requirement, but it's sure going to be a
Yeah.
benefit as we're interviewing them. They can say, yes,
Yeah.
we've started this school or we've built this school.
And Mike and I really are, that is something that we have focused on as we've thought about in recruiting candidates, is that, does somebody have experience with growth, with building programs, with bonds, things of that nature?
Anything else? I'll close up. So William, go ahead, or Paige, you can go, you go, and then I'll close. I'll finish.
I guess a couple things, and I didn't hear it exactly this way, but I think it was woven through the comments that you heard from the focus groups. But this concept of trust, integrity, honesty, I think that's really important in a superintendent. Kind of, I mean, I think it was in there in the themes, but I
Yeah,
didn't hear
and
those
the
exact
wording.
words. So I just
Yeah.
want to make sure those came out.
Yep.
And then the other one would be something around perspective, visionary, being able to put things in perspective,
Yep.
seeing the big picture and visionary. I didn't hear those words exactly that way, but those would be
But
very
we did hear
important to me.
those
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
concepts were certainly mentioned, and those are very critical.
In addition to what, I
Yep.
mean, I agree with everything that's been said.
Okay, very good.
Something that did come up and I would echo as well is just the collaboration. We are, I mean, it is from, driving through the district and going from a TxDOT road to a county road to a Saginaw road to a Fort Worth road, and everybody saying whose responsibility is this to fix this and get his kids here safely, then everybody goes, it's their responsibility, right? And you know that, and we've done a good job. So part of that's communication.
Yeah.
But the ability to work together is just we serve community schools. We live in communities,
Yeah.
which exist with churches, with businesses, with schools, with residents. And so everybody interacting and playing nice in the sandbox, and as well as saying, this is the torch of our district and we want it to burn the brightest. And
Yep.
this is just like as a parent to say, well, yeah, my kid, this is going to be more important. And so for us to say here, even more than Austin, but knowing that that's part of it, is to say, this is the priority here. But that collaboration is important to me. And I hear it in this too, but it is the uniqueness of this community is significant. That goes back to the legacy piece of it. You know, it is people who have lived here forever and people who are just getting here. That the community, I've talked to somebody today, and it's not the same community it was 25 years ago, 35 years ago, but there's still an element of that that's here, and it's different than it was 5 years ago, and 5 years from now it's going to be. So understanding the uniqueness of the community to me is huge. It's huge. I don't think you can understand it on paper. And so just that, and then for me, having my career in education, things I've seen, is the things that go beyond the classroom. Obviously you have to go through the classroom to get there, but and so those things are important, but the things that are going to make those kids and force some of those kids to do the things that they need to do in the classrooms are their extracurricular stuff. It has kept people that I know and people that I have coached and taught and things out of jail and out of caskets and in classrooms, and has caused them to thinking of one right now, that is this individual's educational experience is because there was somebody who cared about them through the classroom and beyond, whether it be band or choir or UIL academics or football or baseball or golf, or you name it. But that also engages and it brings community together and brings a sense of success and a sense of vision and leadership and attraction and ownership of a community. And I think that's incredibly important.
And we agree with that. Dr. Moses in particular, but he and I talked about that for many years, that our co-curricular and extracurricular programs are really some of our very best attendance and dropout prevention programs. Kids who are involved in those programs do better academically, typically less discipline problems, better attendance. So thank you for that, for calling attention to that.
I mean, there are so many things that we're looking for, but I'll say one unique thing to our district is our police department.
Yeah.
I think that's a big challenge. I don't know how many districts have their own police department.
More and more, it's becoming fairly common particularly among larger districts.
So just want to make sure that somebody's ready to take that on and either
Yep.
has some law enforcement, knowledge, or is willing
Yep.
to gain it
Yep.
and lead in that, regard, because that's a big one.
And
So,
you're still building your program out. And so, yep.
so, yeah.
Thank you for that.
Anything else? I'm sure everybody has. Well, you gave a lot of good information. I just have a couple others. I was going to mention curricular, not only academic, but extracurricular. That's going to be important. We want someone that's going to realize the importance of both of those, right? And the other thing is, at least for me personally, is that they have a student first philosophy. Student first, teachers, community. We have some things up here that, every decision we make, is it good for students? If it's not good for students,
Yep.
we're not going to approve it. And we want a superintendent that understands that and looks at that. And then the other thing is, because I have lots of colleagues all over the state, and so they're all lots of different board members on in different boards. And our superintendent keeps us very informed. So not only is a good communicator and he's approachable, but he keeps us informed. We know just about anything that needs to be known. It doesn't come as a surprise. And so that's going to be something that's going to be for me personally, is going to be very important to keep us informed and not try to handle things if he needs our help or just wants us to know something happened in the district that he felt like we might see on the news, right? That we would know about that and hear it first from
Well,
the
and keeping the
superintendent.
board informed is connected to the comment about trust.
Yes,
So-
same thing, right, absolutely, absolutely.
All right, thank you for that.
So those are all good. I would also like to take this minute and before you finish, thank the focus groups that came today. We really, really appreciate. We had a very good turnout is what I understand.
Yep.
We appreciate your time, your effort, and your comments. Those are going to be very informative for us as we're beginning to make this very important decision for the district, probably the most important thing we'll do as a board in these next few years. So we appreciate your time. And for those that are listening that were not able to come to a focus group, there will be a community survey that will be going out. In fact, it was posted at 5 o'clock today. They're going to push it on the website, on the Skyward, and social media. It'll be everywhere. And we would encourage you to go there and take the time to give us your feedback, because we will take that. We do value it, and we want to hear. And it will be open till the 9th, so it will be open for 1 week. And so time of it is of the essence, but we would encourage those of you that were not able to come and really want to participate to please participate with that.
Absolutely. And, this isn't our decision to make, but it's something that we always make as a suggestion. We think we frequently find that it's valuable when your new superintendent is in place and maybe has been here a couple of months and has figured out where their office is and things of that nature, to reconvene some groups like the focus groups and use that as one method for your new superintendent to build his or her networks and relationships in the district. So that's just something you may want to think about in a few months. Do something similar to it when you have your new person in place.
It's a great idea. Thank you.
All right. Madam President, our approach is always, as we've said previously, is conversations about process in public. We hope this has been helpful tonight. Any conversations about candidates must and should occur in closed session. If we don't have anything else to discuss in public, we're open at it's your call, to meet in private and in closed session, and we can have some additional conversation focusing on.
Thank
maybe
you so very
specific
much.
individuals.
Does anybody have anything else they want to discuss before we go into closed session? Okay, it is currently 5:50 PM on October 2nd, 2024. The board will now go into closed meeting as the Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code Section 551-0001-551.146, and in pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Section 551-071, for the purpose of private consultation with the board's attorney, or Section 551-074, for the purpose of deliberating the appointment, employment, reassignment duties of a public officer or employee.